Welcome to another ranking video. I got 24 movies that I watched this month, but unfortunately a lot of them came out before I was born, so according to the logic of one of my commenters, uh, I can't talk about these movies because I can't have a legit, honest opinion about movies that came out before I was born, if that makes any fucking sense. Some of the people that comment on my videos are just the most idiotic, and they're always the people that misspell everything and they have no punctuation, no grammar, no commas, nothing. It's the same Joe Blow fucking idiot who lives in his mom's basement. Like, you hate this movie, so I hate you. Fuck you. You can't have an opinion because it came out before you were born. That's a new one. I've never heard that one before. Okay, so I guess I can't talk about anything. Sorry, I was going to review all the Friday the 13th movies, but unfortunately, most of them came out before I was born, so I can't talk about them. Fucking idiot. But anyways, let's get to the ranking. Fuck that guy. I got 24 movies to talk about. And what is the worst one? I will not go into depth about all these because a lot of these have been weeks ago, like when I saw them. So I won't remember much about all these. I have like little bullet points, just little things about it that I will say, like and dislike, and brief plot synopsis in case you don't know how I do this. So number 24 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, Star Trek: The Next Generation. And this is just dog shit. It is one of the worst movies ever made. Out of all the big franchises, this is easily the worst one in every way possible. Acting, cinematography, scares, it's not scary at all. The kills, the gore, there is no gore. Leatherface, what the fuck? It's just a bad movie, plain and simple. What's the plot? People bump into crazy family and crazy stuff happens. There you go. Number 23 is Phantasm for Oblivion. Yes, I know, so low. But that's because I watched a lot of good stuff, and this is just one of the few shitty stuff that I watched. I did not like this movie. What's it about? I have no idea. It's got some fun Reggie moments in it, but not enough. There's not enough Reggie in here, and it's just a boring, dull movie. It's just not interesting. The whole desert setting, the entire movie. This is a low budget film, and you can tell they just did not know how to create that atmosphere that they did in part 2 and 3 that I really enjoyed. And they didn't utilize Reggie to his fullest potential in this one. They try to go back and explain the tall man, and it doesn't really explain shit. I just did not like this one. It is the worst of the franchise. I prefer 5. Yeah, I said it. Next up, we got number 22, The Crazies, the original The Crazies. Because after all, during this COVID-19 crisis, what better movie to watch than a movie where everybody is forced to stay home and there's a virus out, you know? And that's what the movie's about. This was made by George Romero, and this one was just very, again, kind of boring. Like, just a lot of just keeps cutting between these characters, this husband and wife, between them, and then like these workers at the government agency, and it's just all that shit was awful. The only thing that I found somewhat interesting was the husband and wife. And this movie's version of the craziest is they just start laughing a bunch and they act weird. In the remake, they start looking all fucked up, and they got like the crazy eyes and the veins bulging. The remake is way better. That's one of those remakes that I can easily, without a doubt, say that I think most people would prefer that one over the original. So if you haven't seen the original and you love the remake, I would just skip this. All right, just have the remake. Just watch that one. All right. I'm not sure if that's a controversial opinion or not, but I'll find out later on. Number 21 is Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. This is a made-for-TV movie about a guy with disabilities getting blamed for the injury of a little girl, and they kill him, like mob justice, and then something has come back to haunt them. Is it someone coming back from the... Is it the guy coming back from the grave? Is it the mother of the guy who was wrongly killed? Is it the lawyer? Who is it? Or are they just driving themselves mad with the guilt? I like that aspect of the story, but everything else I did not like. All right, and you can check out my full review for all my thoughts. So I'll just let you watch that instead of going into detail about it. Next up, we got number 20, Phantasm 5, Ravager. This has some pretty awful CGI and green screen effects, but Reggie is in every scene, and he is hysterical. I love the opening where he's getting his car back, that whole dialogue between him and that guy, the look on the guy's face when he's like, I used to keep a gun in the center console. Then he gets out of the glove box, all that. Just him writing a song for a girl. He's always trying to get laid in these movies. I really enjoyed the comedy in this film. Daniel Roebuck was a great addition. Just anytime you throw Daniel Roebuck in, it's like, oh, look, it's Daniel Roebuck. And it's way bloodier, and I appreciate that because number 4 had nothing. So it was nice to see some blood finally. No MPAA getting involved. But once again, just a confusing story. Way more confusing, but I didn't give a shit because 5 movies in, I just kind of gave up on paying attention to the story. Next up, number 19, we got Humanoids from the Deep. I think that's the official title, right? I think there might be 2 titles for this one because there's another movie I'm going to be talking about that has like a few titles, and I'm not sure which one you will know it as. But this one I think is called Humanoids from the Deep. It has like a subtext about, environmental disaster, like, us ruining the environment, kind of like The Prophecy in 1979. So it's one of those like Save the Earth type of movies. But some decent gore and some decent like creature effects by Rob Bottin that I liked, and I don't remember much else. Like I said, it's been a while since I've seen a lot of these. So let's move on to my number 18. Lucio Fulci's City of the Living Dead. That's the wrong title for this movie. What city has the living dead in this entire movie? There is no City of the Living Dead. There's a ghost. There's a ghost priest. And then there's Christopher George from Pieces, and they're trying to figure out where this ghost is from, I guess, and they gotta go to the story is weird in this movie. The story really made no sense, and this has one of the most what the fuck endings where it's like as it's over, you're like, wait, what? What does that mean? And if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. The best thing in this movie, honestly, is just the girl's eyes bleeding, the effects of that, how they did that, and then she starts like vomiting her own intestines out. It was just awesome. That was the best part of the whole movie. And then like this other guy, he kills this kid because he thinks he murders somebody else, but he's not even 100% sure, but he just takes a drill and like shoves it through the guy's head. Awesome. And it does not shy away at all. Oddly enough, there's no nudity in this movie, and I thought Italian horror cinema, especially back then, was notorious for gratuitous nudity. Next up, we got Island of the Fishmen. Now, this is the one with multiple titles. I forget what the other one was. Island of the Fishmen. What was the other title? Fuck. I forget it. Because when I watched this one on Amazon Prime, it had a whole different title. It was not called Island of the Fishmen, but right here it's listed as Island of the Fishmen. So, yeah, this is another one. I kind of forget what happened. It had good Italian score. It's another Italian horror movie with that bad ADR. You could clearly tell they ADR'd every line of dialogue. But the creature effects, you can just tell that they're men in suits, and it's actually pretty funny. So, yeah, not much to say about that one, but at least the story makes somewhat sense. I think it has something to do with, like, treasure. They're trying to get treasure. Like, he makes these fish creature, like, hybrids to go to, like, this lost city to, like, get treasure out for him or something like that. And I think this one had, like, yeah, I think this is the one with the opening where, like, there's these brutal kills. There's all this fog and atmosphere. Like, the opening felt like it was almost like shot after the fact. Like they needed something else to open the movie with because it just doesn't really go with the rest of the movie or the story at all. It's just like something they shot after the fact. I could be wrong, but whatever. Next up, we got a movie that really doesn't even qualify as a horror movie, but fuck it. The Toxic Avenger 1, 2, and 3. I'll put them right here together because I saw all 3 of them. But mainly the first one. 2 and 3 are just god awful. But part 1 is fun, and it's got some of the most shocking scenes in horror cinema. Like they go for it, and this like the scene, I'm sure it's popular, it's probably the most iconic thing about this movie, the scene where they kill people, they run people over for points, like they have their own game, and they see a kid on a bicycle and they drive by him and they like look at him and they're acting all nice, and then they go down the road, they turn around, and then they run his ass over. Why his mom let him out after dark so late at night to go ride his bike? Shame on you, Mom. You should keep him inside that's just bad parenting. So she deserved it. I'm just joking. But they run his ass over, and you think it's over, but they show them going back over his body. We see the tire go over his head, and like his head gets squished, and they're like sending, it's like they're burning rubber on his head, and his head bits are getting sprayed everywhere. It is gruesome. And then just when you thought they couldn't take it one step further, they get out of the car and they start taking pictures of the little boy's body, like, ha, look at you, we fucked you up, you're dead. These are just the most hated characters. You want them to die. And I think one of them dies off camera. Like, what the fuck? That is not a payoff. Yeah, just a weird ass like spoof of superhero movies, really. It's like a spoof. Next up, we got number 15, Phantasm 3. This is my second favorite Phantasm movie. It's got the wackier characters and the wackier tone. It's not so serious like the first one and the fourth one that I did not like. But I like the whole frisbee thing. It's just ridiculous. It's confusing once again, but I like the addition of the new kid, and I like his house and just how badass this kid is. He is a crack shot. He's like Will Smith in the Suicide Squad. And I just like this one. I like Reggie. He uses his shotgun a hell of a lot more, because in part 2, he uses it once, throws it away, and then mysteriously has it back in his hands in the third one. The tall man is the tall man this one. I can't remember much about him in this one. So, moving on to my number 14, we got the 2018 Bloodfest. So, in 2018, we had Hellfest and Bloodfest. And this one, I do not like more than Hellfest. I like Hellfest more. This one has the blood and gore that Hellfest should have had. There's some blood, and there's one moment of somewhat gore with like the eye getting the needle in it, but this one has all the blood and gore. Unfortunately, some of it has this shitty ass CGI over it. It looks awful. I did not care for the characters. It's still an enjoyable movie. I can watch this maybe once every Halloween, maybe if I'm in the mood, because it does kind of feel like a Halloween movie because they're at a horror convention, and then the villains that they went there to worship, basically, because they love them. They all start getting attacked by their own favorite horror icons. Cool concept, but the execution could have been done a lot better. The characters and their dialogue, blah. I actually got a whole review for it already, so you can just check that out. I kind of just said it all right here, but if you haven't seen that review, check it out. I go fully in depth. Now, my number 13 is Society. This was made by Brian Yuzna, who produced the Reanimator movies, and I think he directed part 2, and then he went on to direct The Dentist and The Dentist 2, two great underappreciated slashers that came out in like the late 90s, early 2000s. Check those out. Those will make you cringe and wince and not want to go to the dentist. Trust me, it is just brutal. So check out The Dentist. But this one, it makes up for how weird and just kind of slow and not really all that interesting the first 2 acts are. It makes up for it in the third act, because the third act just goes bonkers. It has some neat, weird ass, like very creative The Thing type practical effects. Not quite The Thing, nowhere near it, but it's just the creature designs, whatever they are, just the way they kind of like just melt together, and there's like all these like ass face people. Like, it's just weird. It's hilarious, and you just don't see it coming. Like, I didn't see it coming. I was just kind of bored throughout the 2/3, and when that last act kicked in, it was hysterical. That's the only reason why it's so high up, because without all that at the end, this would just be a dumbass movie all the way down to the bottom. Like, the subtext of the film about, like, rich versus the poor, we've seen that type of subtext in movies all the time. The rich are evil, but in this one, it's so on the nose. Like, they like say it out loud. Like, the rich are like sucking, they're feeding off of the poor. Like, they, because they need the poor to stay rich, I guess. Like, it's just so on the nose. It's not even like smartly written. It's not beneath the surface. It's just like flat out said. Like, this is what the movie's about. Rich are better than poor, and poor suck. It's like they're sucking on the poor people. They're eating them. It's just weird as hell. But yeah, crazy third act. So number 12 will be Phantasm 2. The Ball is Back. This one takes like the aliens to alien approach, the collection to the collector approach. It just ramps everything up. It makes Reggie the main character. He is fun throughout this movie. He becomes the face of the franchise. He gets that quadruple barrel shotgun that he only uses once. And this one has the Greg Nicotero K and B effects before they were K and B. You got the warm thing coming out of the back, some neat practical effects in this movie. I like the way they killed the tall man in this movie. And honestly, this is how the franchise should have ended right here. Number 11 goes to Blade, the last movie I watched this month. This one, the only negative I can say about it is I feel like it's way too cheesy. Like, it feels very serious, but then there's moments where it just kind of gets corny, like a little too corny. I like Steven Dorff as the villain. This movie is very bloody. It's got some cool visuals. I love that opening club massacre with all the blood sprinkling out of the sprinklers. Awesome. There's some CGI. Like every time a vampire gets killed, they turn into like ash and skeletons, and it looks awful. But there's moments that look even worse towards the end when people are getting like cut in half, and there's like they're like flying away, and then there's like all this fake CGI blood. It just looks awful. So the CGI, the weird corniness of the film, kind of the weird tone, I wasn't a fan of it. So yeah, I'm not really a fan of vampire movies to begin with, but I like this one. It's an action vampire movie with some horror in it. Steven Dorff is awesome in this one, and he's terrible in what's that movie called? Not one. It's called Fear.com. Yeah, fuck that movie. So number 10, top 10 maybe. And the reason why this is number 10 is because I saw the original, the remake multiple times when it came out. So as I was watching this movie, I just didn't have as much fun with it because I saw everything that was coming from a mile away. And that is the Omen, the original Omen. I saw the remake quite a few times growing up. It came out in 2006. I saw it young, and I saw it again and again and again. It made an impression on me. Those kills were scary as hell. I had no idea about this movie until many years later. And as I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, and then this is gonna happen, and then this is gonna happen, and then this, and this. Like as each scene would start, I was like, oh yeah, in the remake, this happens. There's little things that are different in the remake. Like I think somebody gets blown up in a car at the beginning, and that's how the dad gets his promotion, I think. And then like the way they kill the mom is different in the hospital. And honestly, I think the kills are the only thing that's way better in the remake. They execute those kills way better. The way they're done, the effects, just the believability of how it happens. Like, okay, like I can't stand this in movies, period. When something's like falling at them, something like dangerous coming their way, and they have so much time to get out of the way, they just go, oh, for 5 seconds. Like, dude, get the fuck out of the way. The priest, he deserved to die. In the remake, it's stormy, there's rain, and it falls through like a window, and it's like a CGI pole, and that's unfortunate. But it falls through the window, and it's so quick. He does not have any time to react. It just boom hits him. Believable. And then like just the added like insult to injury of all the fucking like glass hitting him. There's all kinds of shards of glass in him on the ground. It's just way better. And then the decapitation scene in the remake, the whole like thing on the side of the, I'm not sure what that's called. I thought it was a ladder growing up for some reason, but it's not a ladder. False memory, I guess. But this thing just comes and it just swipes down and it cuts the guy's head off, and it's like all one shot. Like they combine like practical effects with CGI or something, how they did that. It looks awesome. That decapitation is amazing in the remake. And then his body just falls back. In this one, we get this actor, I recognize him from quite a few movies. I forget his name, but he gets his head cut off by a plate glass window, and his head is just like spinning 1,000 times in the air. It just looks cheesy. I get it. It's 1976. You gotta cut them some slack. I'm not sure what the budget was. This was the director of Lethal Weapon, and I thought that was interesting. But yeah, the only like honestly, the kills in the remake I much prefer. But yeah, they did rip this movie off completely, shot by for shot, death for death. They did like nothing different except for like the mom. Like she hits the IV with something, like she injects a drug into her, whereas in this one, she gets pushed out the window, like how that bitch had the energy to push her out the window, whatever. And the hanging in this one is iconic. The hanging in this one, way better than the remake. Cause she hits the end of the rope, and then she falls into the glass of the second story of the big ass mansion. She just right through the window. Awesome. I've talked about this movie for way too long. So yeah, I just wanted to explain like the differences between the remake and original and what I prefer. The kills I think are just except for the hanging, are way better in the remake. Am I alone on that? Anybody got thoughts on that? Still a good movie, but it's so low, number 10, because I just didn't have that shock, or it didn't have any impact on me. I was like, oh yeah, this is going to happen, this and this and that. So yeah, that's unfortunate. Number 9 is When a Stranger Calls Back. And I saw When a Stranger Calls, I think, in my last month's ranking. This month, I saw the sequel. I heard it was better, and they were right. This is a much better sequel. If I made like a top like 15 or 20 like sequels better than the original, this would be on that list. Like, the first movie has a great first act and a decent third act, but there's that long ass middle, this detective plot, and it's like the killer's on the run. It's just not, it's boring. And this one, it's way more intriguing, the story. It's a whole new killer, this killer with like this ventriloquist ability, like he's a ventriloquist so he can throw his voice. I thought all that was interesting and different. It's way more scary. There's a lot more stalking going on. It's just a much better written story. And they bring back the cast from the first one. I forget her name, Carol Kane, I think. I could be wrong on that, but they bring her back and she's a badass. It's like, kind of like not quite on the same level, but she's like, Sarah Connor in part 2. She's just more badass. She's more hardened, and she's been preparing for the next asshole to come into her life. And she's teaching like self-defense classes. That is awesome. So I like this one way better than the first one, and let me know if you agree. Number 8 will be a movie that I did for a Patreon request, and that is The Loved Ones. This is like a mixture of prom night, and because it's on prom night, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a little bit of like the collection, these zombies in the cellar and whatnot. They're like drugged up zombies. They basically got like melted brains and whatnot. This like got some torture porn in it. But yeah, this one is just crazy. It's fun. It's very quickly paced. Some good performances, a crazy ass villain in Lola, I forget the name, but yeah, a catchy ass score. There's catchy songs in it. There's a heavy metal soundtrack. This one was just fun, so check out this movie. It's an obsession movie too, and it's a mixed bag of genres all put together. Number 7 is The Monster Squad, directed by Fred Dekker, written by Fred Dekker, and Shane Black. I was shocked when I saw that. This is like it's a PG-13 movie. It's kind of like, the Goonies or whatnot. It's a group of small kids trying to defeat these evil monsters that fall from the sky, and it's just fun. And it very much ages itself because even though it's PG-13, these kids are saying things that would make a movie R today. Like they use, the fag word, and they say it quite a few times. It's got that Stephen King bullying that you would see in like Stephen King movies, where there's always that over the top bully kicking the shit out of poor little kids. Unless I'm confusing that with Shazam, because I just saw that recently. Again, over the top bullying. I just enjoyed this one. I like some of the the werewolf one. I feel like they should have redid that one. It looks a little too fake. But the Mummy one was cool. Dracula, it's basically stock Dracula, like Bela Lugosi or Gosi, whatever. But yeah, The Mummy looked awesome. It's just a fun PG-13 movie that it's like a starter horror pack for kids. Like if you want to get your kid into horror and you want to start them off light, this is what you would show them: Monster Squad. Number 6 is The Beyond, or From Beyond. Yeah, From Beyond, not The Beyond. That's a whole different movie. And this is basically just a love letter to practical effects fans. If you love practical effects and you love like The Thing, check out this movie. You got some awesome effects by like John Carl Buechler and a few other people, but they're amazing. Just the monster in the basement, the fucking guy when they go into the Beyond, the guy who's like half normal and half monster, and then like the way they break apart at the end. It's just awesome, slimy, gooey practical effects, and that's honestly like the best thing about this movie. That's why it's so high up, and I just love Jeffrey Combs in it. And Barbara Crampton, I like that she plays a different type of character. Again, I've already reviewed this. If you want to hear my thoughts on this movie, check out that review, wherever corner it lands. I always forget. Number 5 is The Ritual. I think this is a Netflix original, and this is about a group of guys who go into the woods, and then they come across a creature, and a family of cult people. Very kind of basic, but it's the way it's done. It's the execution that is wonderful. The atmosphere, the tone, some of the dream sequences, the visuals, the monster, the creature, the way it looks, it is just fun. The dialogue between the characters, because when you have just people walking through the woods for 90 minutes and not a whole lot of creature stuff is happening in the first, 2 acts, it can get boring. But the dialogue and the acting saves the pace of the movie. And then when you get that payoff at the end, it is a payoff. That creature is amazing. Check out The Ritual. Number 4 goes to Apostle. This is another like religious cult movie where they have to like sacrifice people to keep the island alive or get the crops growing type of thing. But again, it's the execution, it's the way the movie's shot, the acting, the dialogue, all that stuff works for me. It's a very interesting movie. It keeps you engaged the entire time. I love the story. I love the whole brother trying to rescue his sister. You want him to succeed. Awesome. And it's got some torture in it. It's definitely got some gnarly kills. There's this one weird creature hybrid. Like, is he a creature? He's got this weird mask on. Is it a mask or is that his actual face? Almost looks like something out of like a Silent Hill or something. It's weird. And it's creepy and eerie. So check out Apostle. It is on Netflix and totally worth checking out. I recommend it. Number 3 goes to Bone Tomahawk. This is from the director of Brawl in Cell Block 99 and Dragged Across Concrete. And this one just has an awesome cast. You got Patrick Wilson, you got Richard Jenkins, you got Kurt Russell, and so on and so forth. And you got Sid Haig in here. You got Patrick, not Patrick. What's his name in Scream? Dewey. You got like the Officer Dewey guy, Doofus, whatever. Arquette, yeah, I think that's his name. Arquette, the guy from the Scream movies. He's in here. You got a little small role. Great cast. A shocking kill at the end. It is brutal. When it happens, you're like, oh shit. It's almost on like a level of the Terrifier. Like it's almost the same type of kill too, but different. And I just like, again, like the story, the dialogue, the characters, their acting. It just makes this movie so much fun. You're just on this journey through the Wild West in the desert, and you just want to see these people live. And unfortunately, some of them aren't going to make it, and it has an impact because you care about the characters, and that's how you know a movie is good. Number 2 goes to VFW. This is made by Fangoria, and it's mainly an action movie, but it's got all kinds of gory ass kills. It's about these veterans in this bar, and they're being attacked by these druggies that want to get this stash that this girl stole and is like hiding in their bar, and it just goes freaking ballistic. And basically very quick, like right towards the middle, maybe like 25 minutes into the movie or 20 minutes, it just goes and it just never lets up. The only complaint about this movie is that it's too dark. The cinematography, they use a lot of like neon blue and red lighting, which I always like, but this movie's too dark, just a little too dark. There's moments where you're like, oh my gosh, what the hell is even happening? No matter how big your TV, no matter what transfer, it's too dark. But yeah, gory fun. Stephen Lang is badass. Another badass cast, just like Bone Tomahawk. You got Stephen Lang, you got Fred Williamson, you got William Sadler, you got George Wendt, you got the guy from the Warriors. It's just a great, fun, quickly paced movie with some bloody ass carnage, and it's just fun and funny. I love the characters in this movie, especially William Sadler's character. He was hysterical. So now, my number 1 probably will shock you because I do have a shocking opinion about this movie, and that is Exorcist 3. Brad Dourif is fantastic in this movie, and I just love that this one is so different than the first one. And honestly, I prefer this one over the part 1. This one has just my type of story. I love the detective angle, the multiple possession, the dialogue between George C. Scott and Brad Dourif. Those scenes in that cell in there, or that room, the padded cell, some of the best things ever. It's also got an iconic jump scare that everybody talks about, the one with the nurse in the hall and the guy comes behind her with like the big shears and whatnot. It's got all kinds of great cinematography and atmosphere, the score. everything. I just love this movie. I hardly anything bad to say about it. If there's one thing I could take out of it, it's that weird dream sequence that just seems a little too hokey and weird for this movie. It just seemed out of place. And this movie did have like studio meddling. There's a director's cut and there's the theatrical cut, kind of like Halloween 6. But I prefer the theatrical cut because I've seen the director's cut with, you know, the alternate scenes with Brad Dourif and whatnot, and the ending, it's so quick and abrupt. It doesn't have that, you know, theatrical kind of third act that you get in the theatrical ending with the exorcism and the guy hitting the ceiling and all him falling down and is like ripping his skin off. Awesome. Love this one. I think it's better than the first one. Get at me. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. And that's my ranking. What is your favorite movie out of the 24 I just mentioned? Put it in the comments below, or if you want to rank all these, go right ahead. Top 5, top 10, whatever you want to do, put it in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you like what you see, hit those like button, share it with all your friends, and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, Auf Wiedersehen.